If you can't get your health right, you're not going to get your vision working. So most people put health at the lower end.
Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey toward freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
Very well, how are you, Fiona?
I'm good too, thank you.
We are going to be talking about vision today, listeners. I'm really looking forward to sharing this puzzle piece. It's the second last piece of the leadership model that we focus on within the Academy.
So what does a sense of vision mean and why is it important?
Look, I'm going to break it back down, like right back. Having a plan, right? People who are non-planners basically don't get a life. And I'll explain this really, really simply. When you're in your 20s, and you're in your 20s, right? 28. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
I'm
too
27,
warm,
excuse me.
Sorry. So when we think about our 20s, we don't really have a plan. We just want to go out and enjoy ourselves, go overseas, travel, go and do things. We don't really give a shit about the future a lot of the time. Very rarely does a 20-year-old actually be thinking future forecasting. Now, the ones that do are millionaires. Who are really thinking future forecasting because they're on the money, focusing on their pathway, focusing on what they want. And there's heaps of people who are visionaries, really focusing on the life that they want to lead while all their mates are drinking beer and smoking weed and having ecstasy tablets, right? And I was one of those. I was the latter. I was really enjoying my time. I wanted to be an IT programmer. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't really have a plan for my life. I was just like, okay, the normal standard thing. I had my first meltdown because I really didn't want to I saw the vision of my life that I didn't like. I was going to get my degree, get a job, go to work, retire, and then die. That's basically the vision of most people on the planet. Get a wife, have some kids, those sorts of things. Look after the grandkids, and that's about it. So that's the standard vision because most people don't think about what they really want. And a lot of the time, Philia, I've asked this to you. I said, "What do you really want?" You say, "I don't really know."
Yeah, this is like one of my greatest struggles, so it's interesting to talk to you.
Yeah, this
today.
is a trigger, right?
Yeah.
Big trigger. So we think a plan or a vision for our future is actually going to have us lose our freedom. So when we're younger, we're frightened of it, and if you're older, and I've met a lot of people who've had no vision for their future, and they are screwed financially, they haven't got their life in order the way that they've wanted it, and they've just put their fingers crossed and hope everything would be okay. Now, the people who have a really good vision for their future, they have a good wealth plan. They have and I've only just started a wealth plan at 50. I'm hoping that you're going to be not doing it like me. And I know I can get where I want to go over the next 20 years. If I had a really good vision financially, I'd be in a much better position than I am now. It's different. I've obviously been through a divorce, which was not my vision to have, and so you lose half your stuff when you go through a divorce, so you have to start from scratch, or minus scratch for some people. So we have to actually start thinking, well, if we want to start leading our life in many areas, especially in the corporate world, we've got to be thinking, well, how do we want our business to be? How do we want our life to be? How do we want things to look? And if we don't have any answers to those questions, then we're going to be guessing. Right? So I have, for you guys who are listening, I've had Jackson, Sam, Sal, Nadia and Michael on our podcast, and they're wealth coaches, right? Part of Aureus. Now, I didn't really have a plan for finance, and if I didn't set myself up with a vision of how I wanted things, look, they asked me, well, what's your roadmap? What would you like? It was the first time, and they've said this to people. People don't know, because you never really think, because you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're wondering if things are going to work, and then it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, well, what have I got to do to make this work? And it's a big challenge in all of our lives. How do we make life work the way that we want it to be if we're not thinking about the roadmap that we want to place in our lives? Mm-hmm. So for people who are just going, in quotes, day by day, every person that I've met who I used to work with, they basically they'd come to see me because they had no plan. They didn't have a health plan, they didn't have a wealth plan, they didn't have a partner plan, they didn't have any sort of plan of focus, so they hit the wall and they'd come and see me with smashed against the wall, and I'd have to pull them apart, and then I'd tell them, hey, this is what you could do. You could go and do this. Oh no, that's a bit too hard. And that's where it gets really scary, because a lot of the time when you're my age, I'm 50. So when you're 28, you don't think this way, right? So I know how your mind ticks because I know how my mind did tick, mm-hmm. right? I know how different minds tick. And so what I realised is that people who don't put that future in their own hands leave it to a question mark. Mm-hmm. And uncertainty is one of the biggest fears in our life, but to create certainty, you have to have a plan. Mm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we want this thing called certainty. It terrifies us. We're unsure, and we have no concept of creating a really clear vision of what we want our future to be. Mm-hmm. So if we start writing some stuff down, we start putting stuff in place, then we have a rough idea of where we want to go. So as an example, I set up the Academy to have a 3-year program to start off. And it's now 4 years, by the way. So I set up another year. And now February's going to come along, and I'm going to be thinking, well, what is it going to look like? Mm-hmm. Right? How do I keep clients coming into the Academy? What do I do? How do I make it work? Now I've got a big vision, and we spoke about our next stage today, Philia, around working with corporate. Mm-hmm. Now that plan of working with corporate is part of a master 10-20 year plan. So I've got a bit of a plan for the Academy. We don't know how it's exactly going to look, but there's somewhere where we can go to try and test our waters out to see how far we can go to put in as much of our Academy frameworks into as many places as we can. Now, this is what I was doing when I was a healer. I was booked out 5 weeks in advance. I'd run a few weekend courses. I had a weeknight course that I'd run. Mm-hmm. Everything was nice and sitting sweet, right? My finances were going, and everything was going well. Trouble was, if I had a massive accident or something had happened out of left field, there was no plan. Mm-hmm. Nothing in place. Nothing in place for my kids. Nothing in place for Anya. Nothing, because I was the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. So, in lots of ways, my plan was really irresponsible because there wasn't one. Because I wasn't thinking about life insurance or all of those things. Now I've got things set up where if I die, family's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. That's really important to me. Right? So just setting something up that I did last year for my family, if something happens to me, then I know that everything will be okay, even though I'll be dead. So it'll be just part of that idea of having a focus where everyone's going to be okay no matter what. Mm-hmm. Now, if I think about a plan for my business, and most businesses don't do this, and most people in life don't do this, Philia, is that if something bad, in quotes, happens to you, where's your plan? Don't have one, right? So over time, I want the academy to run without me. I want to be able to be away from the business for 3 months, 6 months even, and know that the academy is going to get better without me. Now, if I don't have a plan to create something like that, then the business is going to rely on me all the time. And then I'm going to be jailed to my business as opposed to actually the business working for me the way I want it. So I have to have a financial plan. I have to have a scaling plan to actually empower staff such as you to do things for the academy that I normally do. And pull myself away from areas of the business to make it work. Otherwise, I'm just going to be complaining, I'm too busy, I'm overwhelmed, and I can't get anywhere because I don't have a progressive plan to get myself moving.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And I've got a question, so that's kind of relates to something that I said to you beforehand, before we even recorded, that oftentimes we're so used to just being told what to do and doing what we're being told what to do that it's sometimes hard to actually figure out what we want.
Yes.
So that can be like a bit of a roadblock as well to creating a vision. So what would you advise people to do? Like, and bless you. And how do you set up your visions?
Well, this is where it can be very, very interesting. It's such a great question, Philia, is that quite often we don't know what we want. So how do we need to get advice as well as we need to figure out what we want too. There's got to be a blend. We can't just go, this is what I want, without thinking the impact of what that's going to have on others. So we have to get advice and ask the right questions of ourselves. Well, what do we want our future to look like? And how do we want it to be? Like, I remember talking to you last year, Philia, and I said, when are you going to have kids? Oh, that's way down the track, Jason. That's way down the track. That'll be a while down. And I was just I could feel the terror in your eyes just because I was asking you a question, right? So it wasn't a question for what I wanted for you. You didn't have the answer. And so what you've got to do is you've got to start asking yourself the deep questions to find out, well, what is it that you truly want? Now, there are major things for a woman that they want. In my opinion, you tell me if I'm wrong. You want a partner, yes or no?
Yep.
Okay. You have the greatest partner in the human universe.
I do.
He's awesome. Right? So you've ticked that one off. And you want to have that partnership continually growing and full of love. That's got to have a plan, right? Because there's another thing that a woman wants. Do you want kids?
Yep.
Usually is the case you do, right? Usually 95% of women would say yes, 5% we'd have a no. So what is that going to look like? When? What's that going to look like for work? What are you going to do when you have a baby? Are you going to be off work? Are you going to put them in daycare? What are you going to do? How are you going to manage with your partner with kids? Right? You need to have those conversations now so you know what it's roughly going to look like, even though you don't know what your kid's going to be. Right? How are you going to parent? What are you going to do when sleepless nights? You both like sleep. Right? You don't get it. I know. Right? Sleep is hard. Right? So how do we do these things? We need to talk about the things that we may not know about. Sometimes we can talk and get intel. Right? I've said this to you about your relationship with Cody. A lot of people give you guys advice based on their own interpretation. I think you guys have got a great relationship, right? So you've got to take information in, and then figure out how you guys want to play your relationship game out, how you want to do it. And they could be conceptual until you're in it, you have no idea. Right? And that's what parents say. You will have no idea until you have it. But you don't know. We don't know. That's the truth. they're right. It's just the way people do it is a bit arsehole in my opinion. Right? You just don't know in a condescending way. So we've got to know how to create these things, figure out what we want, and that comes down to digging deeper into what we missed out on. Usually what we missed out on is what we want.
Gotcha. That's a good one. That's really good. So that would be a good little exercise to actually do, writing down all the things that you missed out on and seeing what that means for you and for your future.
100%. And that could be your vision. That could be part of your vision, wherever it is. There's 6 areas of life that we focus on in the Academy: money, wealth, health, friends, family, and intimate partner. So when we look at those things, it's good to have a vision for all 6, like how you would like all of those 6 to look like. And then you get an idea of where you want things to be, and you have a good vision for your future about how you would like your life to lead. So as an example, let's say, Philly, you would like to be completely financially free, where you don't have to work. You do it because you enjoy it. Right? Now, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's a question.
No idea, right? No idea. But if you looked and you thought, well, shit, let's figure out what that is. Who do we need to see? People who know about finances, how to create wealth. What have those guys done? Right? So all of the wealth creators don't blame the government ever. All the government blamers are the ones that actually have not had a vision for their future. Does that make sense? So I don't blame the government for a single thing.
Because you take responsibility for your own life and you don't give the responsibility to someone else.
Yeah. So as a quick example of this, listeners, I had no idea, because I don't know what's going on half the time in the world, that you could get a 50% rebate by putting your kid in the childcare. I just assumed that we're putting a kid in the childcare, so you had to pay for it. And I didn't realise the government would give us a kickback for it. Like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I found it completely ridiculous that the government would support me for me asking for a service. Right? So I was already planned out with what I needed to pay full amount for my kids to do daycare. It made no sense. So I had that all planned out. I didn't have any worries or concerns about the finances, because I knew that's what we wanted to do, put our kids, not full-time, just a couple of days a week so they'd socialise. Right? But I had to have a good plan about how I wanted that to be. So what I want you guys to think about, listeners, is that there's a vision for your future that you've got to look at, and these are details. These are details that you can create and write lists. You can do vision boards, all these sorts of things. They do work if you put the effort in. If you do a vision board and then you just look at the vision board and say, that looks pretty, right?
But you're not taking any steps. It's like sitting in front of it, eating your bag of chips while looking at that beach body that you would like, or whatever you put on there, and be like, this would be nice.
So you got to know business boards. Definitely workable. A lot of people who are business coaches laugh at them. A lot of business coaches do them because they're actually think that they're good implementers, right? So you got to implement your vision and where you want to be. Okay, so there's a vision, right? So that's very, very nuts and bolts, things you need to do, and we all need to have that. Then there's the rare types. They're the visionaries. Now, visionaries are rare. They're not as common as everybody else. They're the ones that can see, if we think about Captain Cook coming to Australia and the vision that he might have had, we don't know who he is, but imagine this: he came in on the ship and he said, okay, this is the area where we're going to get the drinking water, this is the area we're going to set up our settlement, these are all the things that we're going to do. The town planners, who do a really good job of town planning, do a great job, everything's great. The shit for ones, it's a shit fight, right? And so Sydney is really difficult now to get around. Really hard. They've had to retrofit things because underground tunnels and all of those sorts of things, because they weren't planning for the massive nature of what it was. So a visionary is looking and seeing the pictures and the landscape before it even occurs. But then, if they don't have the capacity to have any of what I said formerly, the detail, the things that you need to do to make that visionary idea come into place, nothing happens. Right? So there are visionaries that are really essential to human progress. Right? So who's the guy? Tesla. What's his name?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. I don't care whether you like him or not. That's not the point. I don't care about what you think about him as a person. He is a visionary. He's a person that created a car that is brilliant, designs things, has all of the person who created the iPhone, visionary.
Oh yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah.
Right? Steve Jobs. Doesn't matter whether you like him or not. Right? Who's the Microsoft guy? What's his name?
Gates.
Bill Gates. Massive visionary. Doesn't matter whether you like him or not. These people create progress, right? And they focus on things. And so these people can do things at the detriment of the planet, or they can do things at the connection to it. So this is what true leadership is about. Like, if you are a visionary and you just are so immature and you're just focusing on what you want to get out of it, you're going to shave every single tree off this planet, and there will be no trees at all left for the animals to be looking at it as a habitat, right? So visionaries have to be very, very mature, and there's not that many super mature visionaries out there. If you look at the planet the way it is right now, visionaries who focus on leadership, quite often they're focusing on, what they need for themselves and not thinking about what the planet needs for sustainability.
Well, we're lucky today, listeners, because we're talking to a responsible, mature visionary. So it's great.
Well, look, my thank you, Filia. My biggest struggle around this is that I'm really good psychological. I can see where people can take a vision for their health, well-being, and all of those sorts of things. I'm not necessarily a great visionary for the environment. There's got to be visionaries for that. I'm really good visionary for the psychology and the human development of all of us as people. Right? That's where I come into the fore. And so when people meet me, I can see where they can get stuck. I can see where they can move. I can see where they can grow. And our academy is visionary. It's very, very different to the way the normal coaching and the mentoring space is done. And I've got a vision for how I want the future to be. My biggest issue is systems, right? And so a lot of visionaries really fall down on systems.
And it's where teams become important, right?
100%. So a visionary, if they're smart, they get a good team together because they know that they can't do it on their own. I think Steve Jobs said this. He said the most successful businesses are the ones that hire good people. Right? And I've got a good person I'm looking at a really good person right now. And so, I look for, the first thing that I look for as a visionary for my business is I look for beauty in the heart. Right, so that's my first port of call, and then and then straight behind that, I'm looking for smart, which you are, beauty in the heart, smart.
Thank you.
So you look for that sort of thing. And so if you find a visionary person in the area that you're wanting to grow in, then really make sure you stick with them. They will give you bits and pieces. You just got to make sure that they're visionary for you, as you said, Filia, is going to fit what you want. Right? And so a lot of people who are visionaries are not necessarily humanitarian. So I want to create an environment in our academy where no one wants to leave. It's sort of like a jail, but not a jail. Right? It's a place where it's more like an island where everyone wants to come and enjoy themselves, work hard, and enjoy the sun and grow.
Yeah, create something beautiful and stay.
Yeah, and create something beautiful and stay. And now, if I can't, that's on me. If I can't create that, that's my problem. And I've got to learn to be able to do that really, really well. So this is really important part of our visionary process as a leader. One thing, let's say you're a structural leader. You're really good with structures and systems. There's a lady that I'm thinking about who's one of my good friends, Linda, who is required in her business. She's the go-to for the big wig, she goes straight to Linda to get the answers because she's really system-based. So as a leader who's system-based, they will have to find a visionary leader to actually help them think well beyond their brain. And then that visionary leader needs that systems person to make things happen. Then we need, all sorts of other people to get our vision and our process going. This is why there's a big problem in this world where you find your people, in quotes. If you find your people who are like you, you're screwed, right? Because you need diversity in a vision for leadership. So you need to have people that are different, at the same time a certain quality. So our quality is kind the heart and smart, right? That's what we're looking for our academy. Kind the heart is the model for all of the academy members, is what we're looking for, to help them be kind in the heart, and also the staff in the academy, the people who work within it. Kind the heart and smart. Right? And so if we've got that running, then the kind of heart is what we will not accept out of. We don't want ourselves in working for us. Right? So that has to be the same. The way in which we do things has to be diversified and different, so we can grow with each other and not be the same as each other. Because I wouldn't want everyone to be like me. In the academy working for it, because at the end of the day no one's going to get anything done.
I was going to say there'd be a lot of good ideas, but they, And you've seen me, I'm really good at getting things done. Like I did this all this morning, all the stuff we did this morning. It's not my wheelhouse though, right? You can, but it's not like where you're your strongest. So,
exactly.
And then other people are, not so good at having the ideas, but they're good at like getting things done.
Yeah.
Some people are really good at building things from scratch, and other people are good at better at making things better.
Yeah, which exactly, like, we spoke about this with you, Philia, last week. Sometimes I leave you in the raw because I don't give you the thing. And then I go, okay, I'll give you the thing, and then you go, always make it better. And everyone says in the academy how much the academy is better now that you're in it, right? And I sit there as a leader, and if I was immature and a dickhead, I'd be thinking, oh Jesus, I wasn't so good when I was doing it myself. But a good leader knows their limitations. And they'll vision what they need to build around those limitations to make them work. Because if we just do it ourselves and we think, oh, okay, we're the only ones that can do it, we can be well-rounded and sort of work really hard. It's going to end us, burning out, right? So neither of us like to do the numbers so much, do we?
No.
So we've managed to get someone else to do that for us. When I was getting you to do it, I could feel you demoralised. So I was like, oh, this is not good for you as a staff member. So I took it off your hands and gave it to someone who's really, really good at it. And I think this is what a good visionary does. And a lot of leadership is missing this. It's like you got to suck it up. Now, as an example, let's say you're not really good with, you're in corporate and you're not really good with numbers. And you're a leader. What are you going to do? Maybe a little bit embarrassed that you can't do that stuff, but you're built as a connector, let's say. You're not really good at doing the other parts, so you get one of your staff members who has that numbers, and you rely on them to provide that resource for the upper management. There are ways that you can actually create something that's going to be beneficial for all, rather than actually having a leak but not being able to actually plug it with someone brilliant.
And that, if you're taking that example, that staff member will be happy as well, because they get to do something that they're good at and that they enjoy doing, and so they'll get a better deal as well. Yeah,
and it makes a massive difference when everything starts to interlink. So, guys, when you're thinking about your personal vision, there's a couple of visions that I want to talk about here. Is that we have a vision for our what we want to do in our life, and I think this is probably the most important one because it's related to who? Us. Right? It's us that actually matters in this picture of our purpose. So when you focus on that vision for what you want to do there, if you don't know what that is, I'll give you a really important tip. Unravel all your bullshit. Because I'll tell you what, every single one of us, purpose or not, we all got bullshit. All our stuff that we don't do well, all the stuff that we're stuck with. So if you don't know where you're at right now, get help to unravel the stuff that you're struggling with. That will help you with your purpose. So, would you agree with working with the Academy, when you joined the Academy, you really didn't know where you were at, what you were doing?
Yeah.
And now I remember one of the days I looked at you and I said, your job, and I didn't know, we do this profiling thing, I didn't know that this was your magic. Your job's fulfillment. This is your word. And you just eyes lit up. You're like, that's me. Right? And you realised your purpose had just one little word to it. And then if you do something that actually keeps doing that, then you're going to be happy for the rest of your life. Right? It's knowing what little word is going to turn into a big part of your life.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's really interesting how that kind of develops, and how I still have the moments all the time where I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm doing and stuff like that. But conversations like this definitely help, because I'm not that much of a visionary person necessarily. So having someone like you to talk to is really helpful.
Yeah, it is, because I can see pictures and images and these sorts of things, and give people a really clear vision and purpose for where they want to go, and show them. And then when the good thing about me, in my opinion, that I do, is I look and I go, what is in it for you? I'm a visionary who looks at the vision for the people that I'm with, rather than what it's going to suit me for, because I know that if I can find what is good for you, it's going to be good for me. Right? So a lot of visionaries who are immature, we go, I see that magic. How can I twist that head around to make sure that head is valuable to me? And we all feel that on some level, that we don't feel like we can really trust someone who's got maybe an ulterior motive that's really banking on themselves. So what I do, which is really different, I look and I go, this is what you've got, this is what you can do. How can I actually help you bring that, which is actually going to be a amazing service for the Academy as well. So it's reciprocity based, and it's a recipe for connection rather than a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, very different.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's lots of other people that do it. I'm also sure that there's a lot of people that claim they do it that don't. And I know you've gotten to know me over a period of time, and you would have thought I would have been the former rather than the latter that I'm talking about right now, when you hadn't broken through with where you are now with me, knowing who I am and how I tick, is different now. Because when we're not developed, we can always think someone's got an ulterior motive to take something from us, don't they? Yeah. And that's pretty normal, listeners, that can happen. So this is what's really, really important for us. If we can get this vision, working well for us, and making sure that we have that purpose-driven vision, then we're going to be getting on really well. The second one needs to be health, right? Because if you can't get your health right, you're not going to get your vision working. So most people put health at the lower end. You and I are really lucky. We're a little bit bubble girl and boy, so we've been forced to have to sacrifice some of our food intake, haven't we? So I'm actually really grateful. Sometimes I'm not, that I can't eat things that I'd like to eat. So you need to create a vision plan for how you want your health to be. So I have a really simple one for myself. 20 years time, I want to be able to be jumping around with my grandkids with good knees, good shoulders, and running around with them. That's my goal. So I've got to take steps every single day or week to make sure I'm living by that sword. And making sure, every zero that you get to, so when you get to a 30 or 40 or 50, if you come into the 0 year healthy, the next 9-10 years will be healthy. It's a guarantee. It's just a little hot tip for you. Get to that 30, 40, 50, 60, if you're looking healthy and you're doing really healthy there, you're going to do it. You're going to be pretty consistent all the way through the rest of the next 10 years, and then you've got to reset again. Make sure that each 10-year period is a really essential, and you have to reset what your values are at that 10-year mark. Really, really important for a health plan where you want to be.
That's really good advice as well, because you might not, you might want to have this, certain amount of muscle mass or whatever when you're younger, and then it might become, different as you get older as well. Like, what you just said is really beautiful, being able to run around, play and throw around your grandkids. And that's a really cool vision, but it's not like one that is like, oh, and I need to have this much muscle mass and this one is much body fat percentage and, whatever you go into.
Yeah, and when I was in my 30s and 40s, that was really important. In my 50s, bone density is really important for me, exercise-wise. Right? It's not for you. You're 28. Right? 27, sorry. Bone density is not that important for you right now. It's really important for me. So bone density and flexibility and good exercise and health and well-being is my health plan for the next 10 years. Right? I want to be able to be super, super flexible for my body. So that's what I've got to really work on. That's my weak point right now. So this year I'm going to be working on trying to be getting close to doing the splits for my lower body. So
that's cool.
That's a goal to try and get. So then I can get my high kicks with my karate that I'm learning really high. So and making sure I do weights less. When I used to bench 90 kilos, 3 sets of 10, that's not important anymore. I'm focusing on benching 60 kilos, 3 sets of 10. So I've dropped 30 kilos down. I just want to do more body weight exercise rather than weights exercise, and make sure I really look after and value my body the way it is now. I don't need to go, I don't care for looking good in front of the mirror. You'll never see a post of me on Facebook with my top off. I'm not interested in showing my muscles to the world. It's not important. And bone density, flexibility is where I'm going to now in my 50s. And that's where I'm at. So that's not for everyone. I wouldn't suggest someone in their 30s to be doing that, someone in their 20s to be doing that, because that's not where they're at. They're more focused on visual appeal and that sort of thing. So I would never, as a visionary, ever tell someone, hey, you need to be doing what I'm doing because I'm 50, and I'm not really focused on that sort of stuff anymore. It's not important to me. Because as you get older, if you're maturing, not everyone does this, you're not so focused on trying to make sure you look magical for the world to see. You're just looking well. And people have said to me, I had 3 people this year say to me, someone very graciously said I look 34, and I had someone say 37, someone 39 this year. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm doing something right. Now that started in my 40s. Stopped having alcohol in my 30s. Right? It's a massive change for your skin. So I started really looking after my body in my 30s, and I'm reaping the benefits now in my 50s. Just turned 50, and people are putting me a decade below.
Isn't that that's good? Obviously, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I'm doing something right, and I'm, Anya and I were we're in Sydney, and the taxi driver said, "Do you want to go out somewhere?" It's like, hey, I'm 50, I'm going to bed. He's like, oh, you look about 37. It's just like, because of my vision for looking after my body was really, really important, we don't think about it. So we've got to create those two as paramount importance. And then you've got to look at the other ones, like how do you want a vision for your intimate relationship? How would you like it to be? If you don't have a plan and you're with a partner and you're just flying by the seat of your pants, there's a thing that goes along, which is you actually start falling apart. You're together, but you're not really together. It happens all the time in a relationship. So to create a good relationship, you have to have another plan. right? So it's knowing how to create plans and visions for how you would like your relationship to be. I want, I'm not so focused on sex so much anymore. I'm 50. It's not that important to me anymore. It was when I was in my 40s. It was when I was in my 30s and 20s. It's not such a big deal anymore for me. Doesn't mean I don't have it, doesn't mean I don't want it, it just means it's not high priority. So I look and I go, I want more companionship in my relationship. Doesn't mean that the sex is gone, guys. It just means that I'm just not focused that way anymore. So my vision is thinking, well, how do I make sure I nurture my relationship with my wife, who's 40, make sure where she's at and what she wants, and I can supply that and also what I want in the relationship as well.
100%. So, looking at your vision, how far in advance do you plan? And also, how much detail do you go into? Do you kind of like have a general kind of, like you said with your vision for health, it would be to play with your grandchildren in 20 years' time, and then you kind of set like more kind of precise goals for every year?
Yeah, look, it really depends on the type of person you are. I am not a great planner as far as details are concerned. So what I do is I think big picture and I go, okay, I'll stop this year. So I usually sacrifice a couple of things every year that probably aren't so good for me. So I used to, until 2 weeks ago, I would eat a couple of hot chips off my kids' plates. I wouldn't ever get hot chips for myself. I'd always take a couple of hot chips from the kids' plates, and I've sacrificed them this year. I don't have melted cheese. I don't like. So I've created things that I'm going to get rid of. Right? Then for me, to make sure I'm really connected to my plan, I stick in my diary exercise routines that I want to stick to, that are not overdoing it, just the right amount for my age and for what I want to do. And then I stick to them, right? Stick them in your diary. Staying with business, you gotta look and say, this is what I want, this is what I want to create, and this is how I want it to look.
Awesome.
So you've got to have some details, and you've got to have a future focus. So when I think about when I'm 60, I want to be a black belt in karate before I'm 60. So that's one of my goals. So to be a black belt in karate, I need to be fit. I need to be flexible, right? I need to look after my body. I need to make sure my hands and everything are really nice and supple, and making sure that I've got power running through them and all of that sort of stuff. So that's a goal I want to meet before 60. Okay, and it's something that is achievable. I'm a lowly yellow belt with a green stripe in where I am right now. I'm going to be going for my green belt in June, and that's one of my target focuses. I don't know. I think I want to get a black belt with Liam. So I'm hoping that we'll get a black belt together. He'll catch up to me. And I'm not worried about getting a black belt fast. I just want to do something, and that's a thing that's a vision plan that's connected with my son, right? So I have a plan to use karate as a way to really bond with him, doing exercise, doing something that we're going to do together, and we've both committed to get a black belt together.
Awesome.
Right? Hopefully he'll keep going. He's that sort of kid with the attitude that will. So a lot of kids sort of quit those sorts of things at 12 or 13, so we'll see where he goes. But that's sort of a plan. We've got to have a bit of this is what I'd like to do, and then put a bit of detail in, and then keep our focus. And I think accountability is really, really important to others. I'm really accountable to the Academy, so I make sure that I do the right thing by it, and really focus on continuing to improve my personal development, and also my health and well-being, and the financial success of the Academy. What I do there is I look and get support around that. Okay, so make sure every business, in my opinion, needs coaching. Any really successful business has been mentored and coached. So that will be part of the journey of getting it further up and moving into more of a space so more people can experience it and what we do.
Awesome. Well, this is really beautiful. Anything else you would like to add before we finish for today?
Listeners, I want you to think this is what we're going to do for you today. If you've managed to get to the end of my waffle, is we're going to put in the show notes a 5-year plan for you, and we're going to put a 6-week planner in for you. So then you can focus. Like the last point is that usually we don't get past 6 weeks when we have a goal. So I figured this out. There's a guy who set this up. His name's Taki for this group who does 6-week plans, and I sort of thought that makes sense. 12-week plans you sort of drop off the wagon. So every 6 weeks you sort of like do a reset and focus on that. So we might give you a little bit of a planner here to get you a 6-week plan, and then a visionary plan for 5 years. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Let's do that.
All
and
right.
the 5-year plan, I think, has like a 1-year plan in it as well, and like for 3 months. So
Yeah, it's got
so
those.
you can go in for a year as well and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
100%. And so, look, if you really like this content today and you don't have a vision for your future, why don't you actually come and connect in with us? Because we're really good at breaking you open, helping you change, and getting you to find out what the hell it is that really matters the most in your world. Come and book in a breakthrough chat with us. Or I'd love it if you really like this and someone needed to hear this information today and they're a little bit lost. Please like and share this podcast. It's the only way that your friends and family and people that you love are maybe getting a little bit of an insight. Sometimes just one thing that someone says can change someone's life, and I'd love that to be one of your friends or one of your colleagues that you really like and appreciate. So thank you so much for listening, guys, and thank you so much, Philia, for hanging out with me today.
Thank you, Jason. That's always really helpful.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.